So it's time to get back and do another vise review. Today we're looking at the Tiemco TMC vise. I've been hesitating a little bit to do this video because I know when it's done and I post it, I need to move on to a different vise for review, and this vise has been fantastic. I love it. Bit pricey for sure, but I really enjoy the different features and functions that it has, and we'll go through some of those with you. Then we'll post the video, and hopefully you'll find that helpful. So let's just jump right into it. So now we're up a little bit closer. Here's the Tiemco TMC2 vise. I've got a nice hook here. I want to go over some of the features on this particular vise. Starting with the bottom. Let me move this skin a little bit out of the way here. Not in the way. One of the things I like about the base here is this little pad right here, which is magnetic. I mean, it's really magnetic. You'll see that those hooks just jump right over there. It may magnetize those hooks a little bit, so kind of take it or leave it, but I do kind of like that. Usually when I have a vise with a base, it's got a little dip in it or a little cup for me to store my hooks in, but I always end up knocking some of those out, and they go on the floor. They're hard to find, so I really like this feature here. It's a very solid vise, top to bottom. I do put a clamp on it just to help me keep it in place, because sometimes I tend to pull really hard. You know, I've mentioned before, I'm not a professional. I'm just working at it. So let's kind of work from the bottom up. Right here, I've got an attachment for my bobbin cradle. I've got a screw over here on this side towards the vise head, the vise jaws. If I loosen this up, you can see I can slide it kind of up and down on this post, so I can move it to about the height that I want it. Then all I need to do is screw that back down, and it's now in place. The harder you screw this in, the less free this is going. Your bobbin cradle is going to move. So I'm going to loosen it up just a hair, because I want it to move a little bit more than that. And right about there's where I'm going to want that. So when I'm using a bobbin cradle, I use them all the time, and I know I've included them in some of my other, not only fly tying videos, but some of the vise reviews. I like to keep my bobbin cradle just kind of out of the way, but I use it so frequently, I want to have it really available. And so this is when I'm tying, how I usually have things. When I need to use my bobbin cradle, I'm just going to move it over so it's underneath the jaw of the vise, and then I'm just going to turn it upwards. And then up over the top here is where my thread is just going to dangle to keep it out of the way. Once I'm done with the need for the bobbin cradle, I'll just crank it back down and push it right back out of the way. So moving up the vise, we're going to begin a series of different knobs that are available. You can literally put this vise in just about any position due to the kinds of adjustments that you can make with these knobs. So we'll start out with this big thumb knob here. If I loosen this up, I'm able to swivel this vise left and right. So we've also got an adjustment screw that's facing me right here, and it's big and easy to grip. All of them are. They're metallic, and they're patterned so that you can really grip these. You can see the back side of this adjustment. So I've loosened this up a little bit, and with that loosened, I can go up and down. So I can go up and down, side to side with this, and I'm going to go ahead and tighten that back down. Then we have two more adjustments here and here. We'll do the top one first, and that's just going to allow that arm to swing down or up. And as you can see, we can just about stick that in just any position that we might want. I'm going to go ahead and tighten that down. We'll make some adjustments here because this is a true rotary vise, and so we'll show that in a minute. I also have this adjustment here, so I can do that. And now the jaws of the vise, I can move them many different directions. I don't really tie that many directions, but you can do it. So I'm going to tighten that down. So this is a true rotary vise, and what I mean by that is you can make adjustments so that the shank of the hook is in perfect alignment with the axis of the vise itself, and then when you do your turns with it, the hook is not going to jump up and down. It's really going to revolve around one point. So I've got that kind of adjusted right now. Just for demonstration, I'll just take this tool here, and you'll see as I move that around, that hook doesn't jump up and down a lot. That's really handy when you're tying on materials and using the rotary feature. Your hook's not going up and down, up and down, up and down, which will give you a much better outcome in terms of your fly tying. So just as an example, this is the true rotary here. So let's go ahead and make an adjustment here. We're going to put that down a little bit lower. We're going to adjust this one here so we can get our hook up more parallel. So let's put this here again, and you can see that it jumps off of center axis and comes back down to center axis, goes above it, comes back down. So I like to keep that in axis so I have that true rotary kind of feature going on. So let's take a second and just kind of show you how to load your hook into the vise. So we can put our hooks right into this slot here. On the bottom of our jaws, we've got the knob that's going to open this up and close it down. So you can see I can kind of turn it clockwise, and now it's completely shut. Obviously I'm not going to get a hook in there if it's completely shut. So I'll just open it to the width I want. I'm going to take that same hook that we had earlier. I'm going to stick that in there, and then I'm just going to turn counterclockwise on the knob here on the bottom. And then I can tighten that up pretty good. You can probably hear that, and I can actually make that much tighter. But I've been able to, obviously this is like a size, probably a size 10 or 8 hook. I've put in hooks much smaller than that, so let's kind of show that. I think this hook here is probably going to be a size 18. I've gone much smaller than that, so we'll just go ahead and turn this counterclockwise to reopen those. We'll remove that hook. I'm going to grab this size 18 kind of scud hook, and I'm just going to tighten down on it. Just like that. So I've been able to tie up to, I don't tie much bigger than a size 6 is monstrous to me for the flies that I usually tie. But it'll also handle the smaller sizes. I've tied down to a 28 on this vise, so I don't have to change heads out or anything. It will handle all of those hook sizes. There's one other feature on the jaws of the vise here that I just really like. This is going to be more of a preference thing, but whenever I'm tying a parachute fly, I'll put the post on the parachute. I'll do the rest of the fly. I'll tie in my hackle, and then after I've tied in my hackle, I'm going to detach my thread, and then I try to get my hook in a straight up and down trajectory so that parachute is sticking out straight, parallel and straight out from the vise, which allows me to kind of tie right onto the parachute itself, which I find very helpful. So it took me a little bit to discover this here. Let's see if I can put this more in frame. There's a little knob right in here that I didn't see for a while. I was just getting so lost in all the adjustments that you can make. Finally, I recognized it, and I was like, oh, let's give that a shot. So I loosened it up and found that I can turn the head, the jaws of the vise. I can tighten that back down, and then I can make the adjustment here to get this kind of out where I want it. I'll adjust here and I'll adjust here, and just like that, with a couple of adjustments, I've got my hook close to that straight up and down where I can just tie the parachute and secure that hackle down for a parachute pattern. So when I want to kind of come back a little bit, we'll just loosen that again. I'll just turn this straight back around. We'll tighten it back down, and then I'll make my adjustments again and tighten things down a little bit. So very easy to kind of just get your hook into that position. What I usually do, because I always do that when I do parachutes, what I usually do is take the hook out of the vise, and maybe it's even faster, but I really like this ability to do it without taking the hook out. But I'll take my hook out of the vise and I'll kind of point it straight up and down and clamp onto it. This just gives me some flexibility to do something a little bit different. So last but not least, we have the knob back here to do our rotations. This one is a little bit different than what I'm used to, but I've been tying on this for just probably a little bit over a month, probably 100 flies or so. I've really gotten used to it. I'm used to having one that has kind of a handle on it that you use to spin it, but because this has that stamped in grain into the metal, I have no problems. I got really used to it over the last month. This is kind of the tension that I like to tie on most commonly. I can adjust that depending on what kind of materials I'm tying on, but I do like my tension to be right about here because it allows me to turn that hook and clean things up, look what it looks like on either side, and it doesn't just automatically swing down thanks to our good friend gravity. So that's where I'm usually tying, but we can loosen it up. So what you do is we're just going to hold this. It's got a secondary knob here. We're going to grab this knob, we're going to loosen that up, and then I can loosen this knob up here, and then I'll just tighten this by holding this firm, and then I'll tighten my rotation back up. So you can see much looser, and gravity is doing what it does. But if you're really wanting a constant smooth turn, you're going to want to loosen it up like this. So let's give it a shot, loosening it up even more. So I'm going to take this back further. You can see I'm getting a gap between this plastic washer. I'm going to hold this in place again as I tighten my knob here. And now we're really a lot more loose. This vise rotates amazing on the axis, incredibly smooth. Probably one of the smoothest vices that I've tied on. So that's how we do that. Let's go ahead and loosen the knob, our rotation knob. Let's screw this nut in a little bit tighter. So now it's very tight. Go ahead and tighten this one down here as well. And now I can hardly move it at all. So going from not being able to move at all to adjusting it so it can smoothly turn without much interruption whatsoever, I'll move it back to kind of where I like it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this nut down just a little bit, and I'll probably just make micro adjustments with this that you're able to do. So you can see that it's still got that gravity thing, so I'll just back the handle back off a little bit. I'm going to tighten this a little bit more, not a lot more. You'll find that these adjustments make a big difference. So that's a little bit too tight, but we're getting there, and you start to get the idea. So you can adjust this to any tension that you want. I know I said last but not least, but there's one more thing that I really like about this vise, and that's this arm here that connects to the jaws of this vise. It just gives me so much space to work on my fly here. It's almost as if the jaws are almost floating in midair. So I really like that, having the space that I need to work. You can see I've got a lot of space. A lot of vices is not going to give you nearly that amount of space. So the question becomes, would I recommend this vise? Absolutely. Kind of mentioned it in the intro. I was a little dreading this day because I know once I finish this review, it's going to be time to move this vise aside so I can work with another vise for a month or a month and a half and then do a review on another vise. And it's been a pleasure to tie on this vise. Absolute pleasure. It is a bit pricey. I've seen it for as high as $1,100, down to the high $100, $900. It's a pricey vise. There's no question about it. So this is not a vise you're going to want if you're a beginner. You really probably want to get a much lower cost vise that has some of the features that you're looking for. But I would wait to invest in something like this until you're really tying a lot and really invested in tying, either as a hobby or if you're tying for your own flies for fishing or, for other people. That would be a good time to invest in a more expensive vise like this. But again, if you're a beginner, this is probably way too much. And my advice would be to wait until you decide how invested you are in tying flies before you make an investment in a vise like this. But truly a pleasure to tie with. I would recommend it anytime. The Tiemco TMC 2 vise. Hopefully this has been a little bit helpful for you.